Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Matt and Anthony from the Pitti Group Wealth Management, and this is the Finance Things in Life. Today we're going to be talking about 401ks and your fiduciary responsibility.
Love it. Thanks, Matt, for that great intro.
You're welcome.
We've had a lot of experience with not only the 401k side, but talking to employers about what their fiduciary responsibility is. Understanding that side of it, what their risk is, how they can mitigate some of that risk, and what their responsibility is to their employees. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and just give some education on what you should know and what you should look out for.
Yeah. A lot of time employers really don't understand what their responsibilities are. Their fiduciary responsibilities are for a plan. And when you kind of discuss that with them, what they should be doing, what they should be looking out for, sometimes that
can come as a surprise.
It's a surprise, They're like, wait a second.
I have to do what?
What am I supposed to be doing? And a lot of times a 401k, it's not top of mind, for an employer or a controller, whoever's handling the plan. It's often the last thing that they think about or they want to deal with.
You have to run a business.
Yep.
You're running a business, staying profitable, keeping your employees happy.
Right. And as long as the plan is there, people are contributing, participating.
Check the box.
It is what it is. But oftentimes what ends up happening is, especially if you've had a plan in place for a long time that hasn't been, let's say, audited or reviewed, is often the cost can be astronomical, especially in today's world where there's been this compression in fees, this push to reduce fees across the board, across the industry, and then also fund performance. Those can underperform significantly, and that could put your plan at risk. If you were to have a participant or an employee complain or about the plan, the underperformance or the high fees.
Yeah. We've talked about target date funds before in retirement plans and how it's kind of a set it and forget it investment. I feel like with the 401k plans, employers feel like it's a set it and forget it plan. They set it up with a provider, not going to name names, but just a provider in general. They run through the fund lineup, and then 10 years down the road, they're paying fees for an audit that they may not have to have if they're under 100 active participants. Maybe the advisory fees are pretty high. Maybe the fund fees are pretty high. Maybe they're getting, your participants are getting charged an astronomical amount and you don't know. And then if those participants find out and they feel like you're not doing your due diligence to make sure the plan stays cost effective.
Your job as a fiduciary.
They could potentially come to you and make you liable. That's I'm not sure what the cost of those lawsuits are, but I do know if you don't have fidelity bond coverage. Is it fidelity bond coverage? Yeah. That cost can be really detrimental to the business.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, depending on your plan size, you're supposed to have a fidelity bond that kind of covers any insurance for the plan. And, we've come across several plans over the years that didn't even have, one, didn't have fidelity bond in place, and two, the coverage wasn't up to what the requirements were. So those are simple things that need to be taken care of, that if you're not reviewing your plan, and I'm not saying a 401k has to be reviewed every year, I mean it should be, but some of the little things should be reviewed every year. But if you're not staying up to date on your plan as a fiduciary, as a controller, as the business owner, there are things that can slip, between the cracks and end up, could end up, causing you a lot of pain from trying to have to fix those issues.
Yeah. Another thing that I've seen with this increase in people wanting to be more financial literate and comparing different jobs and what they offer is staying competitive in the job market. If you're looking for top tier talent in whatever industry you're in, making sure that you offer a competitive plan is going to be really necessary to retain that talent. If you have a 401k plan and you check that box and you say, you're offering retirement to your employees, but they can go elsewhere and find a match somewhere else, that's basically free money to them. If you're getting a safe harbor match, which is 100% of the first 3% that I contribute and 50% of the next 2%, that's essentially a free 4% if I'm contributing 5%. And if you're not offering that, then obviously they're going to be more inclined to potentially leave, because if they're looking for a long-term employer, now you're talking about, compounding interest. You're talking about, some real numbers over a longer period of time. So making sure that you're staying competitive and you understand all the different avenues that you can incorporate in your retirement plan is another reason that you should make sure that it's being audited or at least reviewed.
Yeah. And not everyone can, not every business can afford to do a match, right? We understand that. But, there have been, probably hundreds of times we've met with clients over the years where we review their 401ks. We don't manage the 401k, but we review their 401k, and we can find, issues that they might have. Or sometimes we've even had clients say, okay, this is my current employer's 401k, and I'm looking at changing jobs, and this is what the other plan offers. Are there benefits to this plan that aren't in the other?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you take out the match or anything like that, that's maybe not apples to apples. So we're just going to look at apples to apples within the 401k plan. Making sure that you have a plan that has the proper diversification, a good fund lineup that not only has quality funds as far as performance, but also cost. I mean, that's just a simple thing that you can do within your plan to make sure that it's going to stay competitive. You don't always have to offer a match because it might not be in the cards for your business. But making sure that you have a quality plan in place is something that you can easily do.
Yeah. And making sure that your employees are educated. Your advisor of your plan should be stopping by or doing some kind of update of the plan details to make sure that they have someone that they can go to if they have questions about the plan. If they need help with the fund lineup. Not a lot of people know if they should be investing in one particular fund to another, or what the difference between a large cap versus a small cap is, or if they should be investing in a target date fund, or what it is in general. One of the things that I really love about what we do is, we'll go on site and meet with the employees individually, because maybe they've got their retirement plan set up. Maybe they need some individual help as well. Just offering that service to your employees is a huge differentiator as far as keeping that talent and making sure you're just adding more value to your business.
Right. Yeah, and another thing, getting back to being a fiduciary, a lot of times I hear, we've both heard, employees will go to the business owner or maybe HR and ask, what should I be invested in? That's not what you should be doing.
No.
Let's say
yourself at risk.
You're recommending investments for an employee, and those investments end up being the wrong investments to be invested in. That could be a huge liability for you as HR or business owner. So having an advisor be the one to give that advice is crucial. So having an advisor that is active within the plan, whether it's on site or whether it's just being available via email or phone call.
Or Zoom. Nowadays,
Zoom,
everyone's doing Zoom.
So those are easy fixes for a retirement plan, as far as making sure you have everything in place.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are a lot of different avenues like we went down before as far as what to include in your retirement plan. They're very customizable as far as what you can do. Like Matt had mentioned, if you can't do a match, there's something called a discretionary match. You don't have to do a match every year, but when your books say you can, then you're able to do so. So if you're leaning more towards one way or the other, but you're not sure if you can afford it or not, there are different avenues that you can take to make it customizable. And then also looking at your plan provider, making sure your plan provider is giving you the necessary tools to make your plan successful. Even as small of a thing as the user interface of the plan. If it's easy for your employees to access and to maneuver within the site or the app, it can dramatically change your participation within the plan if it's just easy to access. They always say that there's orange money. Some people have the rain clouds or like the sunny day on their dashboard that shows your plan health. Yeah, exactly. It's just some of those small things that can make it easier for people to understand if they are doing a good job or if they are on track. And then, like we had mentioned before, if you want to really get into that next step of your plan, as far as your goals of your retirement plan and how that'll affect what you're doing, then that's something you'd want to talk to your advisor about.
Yeah. And the other thing is auditing your own plan. So what we typically do for the plans that we manage is every 3-4 years we'll send out the existing plan out to bid. So what you do is you take your plan. Maybe you're with XYZ company, and we're going to, then take it out to bid with ABC, DEF, and etc., and have those providers give us what their costs would be to manage that same plan and what the fund lineup would be for that same plan. And then that way you can kind of compare what you have currently to what else is out there. So then you're doing your job as a fiduciary for the plan and saying, listen, we're with this provider because, cost-wise, it was the most cost-effective plan for our participants. And it not only was cost-effective for our participants, but it also gave the best fund lineup. Or, maybe it had open architecture. So it wasn't just one firm's funds. It's not just XYZ company's firms. It's everybody's firms. Are everybody's funds, so they have the ability to choose the best funds out there. Doing that, so let's say your plan ever got audited, or you had a disgruntled employee that complained about the plan in place. You could say, well, we did our fiduciary due diligence. We checked out the plan, and actually we did it just this past year. It's cost effective. It had great fund performance compared to other plans out there. So we felt there was no need to make any changes.
Yeah, save you a lot of headache down the road.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then one of the things that I would keep in mind if you are the owner of a small business with more than 10 employees, soon through New York State, you are going to be required to have a retirement plan for your employees. We run into all the time a lot of small business owners that just don't understand the ins and outs of the retirement plan, what they should be offering depending on how many employees they have. It can be extremely confusing with all the information that's out there. So if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. It is typically, I would say, more specific on the certain situation. So it's not more of a generic answer. If you have X amount of employees, this is the plan you want. So I would recommend reaching out and asking about your specific scenario.
Yeah, because like every plan, every business owner is a little different. Maybe you want to help contribute to expenses. Maybe you want to offer a match. Maybe you want to do some sort of profit share, and all those are going to be specific to each plan. So maybe a certain plan makes more sense. whether it's a 401k, a simple IRA plan, a SEP, and then keep in mind, right now there's also tax benefits out there for your retirement plan. So that's something else to keep in mind, that we can kind of help guide you with.
Yeah. And another thing, what if you're, you could be a small business owner that's nearing retirement and you haven't been saving for retirement, and your, exit scenario is just selling your business for retirement. Maybe there's another option as far as putting some money away in the final 4 or 5 years of work to fund a retirement plan. Maybe that'll come up in a next episode. Bumper.
Right. But yeah, like I said, with 401ks, and retirement plans in general, and your fiduciary responsibility, it is extremely important to make sure that you're doing a self audit within the plan. Make sure that there's funds in there that are diversified. You don't have to have the best performing funds, but you don't want all the worst performing funds. And then also costs within the plan, as long as they're not outrageous. You don't always have to have the cheapest plan.
Staying competitive.
But you need to stay competitive. So doing those audits within your plan, working with an advisor, is extremely important, because it's going to save you headaches down the road.
For sure. Yeah. And like always, if you have any questions after listening to this and you'd like to chat a little bit more about your specific situation, what you should be doing, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to chat, and maybe we'll do a spin-off of another episode later down the road.
Yeah, sounds great. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Any questions, feel free to shoot them over, and look forward to talking to you next time.
Thanks
guys.
Bye.